So yeah, that was a goofy fight there between Dave Allan and Filip Hrgovic. That was some goofy stuff. That fight did not need to happen. Filip Hrgovic should be off fighting. Thank you for honking. Filip Hrgovic should be off fighting some top-level Eastern European heavyweight, and Dave Allan should be right where he was tonight in Doncaster, but instead of fighting Filip Hrgovic, a world-ranked heavyweight, he should be fighting some British heavyweight. He should be fighting Jamie TKV or something like that. I'm not the most well-versed on the British heavyweight scene, but I'm aware that it's entertaining, that it sells tickets over there in the UK, that people watch those fights on TV in the UK religiously. There's just a big fan base for heavyweight boxing in the UK that really isn't like anything else anywhere in the world that I'm aware of. And, Dave Allan is a part of that ecosystem, and because of that, I think when it came time to matchmake for Filip Hrgovic, who is basically being left out of this, early 2026 heavyweight discussion. He needed a fight. It's like everybody else that was up there in the rankings had a fight, even to Anthony Joshua with Jake Paul, and Filip Hrgovic didn't have a fight, so he got Dave Allan. And it's just because it, would put Filip Hrgovic on a DAZN card in a venue that would sell tickets with a fighter with a name that people know. When I think from a boxing perspective, Filip Hrgovic should very obviously be fighting any of the numerous, world-ranked Eastern European heavyweights. It's just that those fights especially don't really get TV views anywhere in, the West, in Europe, America. People just don't really watch those fights. Look at the main event of Cherkadzian versus Donovan last night. I mean, that was partially because it was late in Germany, but that was really weird. There was a German heavyweight fighting on that card named Emmanuel Odiase, who blew away a British fighter named Nick Webb, and right after that knockout, the crowd left. And the main event of Cherkadzian versus Donovan was essentially I don't even know, looked like 15 or 20% capacity building. It was like 1 a.m. in Germany, but it created a very weird atmosphere for that fight, and I think it may have taken the fighters by surprise. But it's nothing, against Eastern European fighters at all. Eastern European fighters are excellent. It's what I'm frustrated about. I wish that Eastern European fighters, had a better opportunity to showcase their talents on the top of cards. But it's funny. It seems like you have to have a breakout as an Eastern European fighter. You have to have a breakout performance against a non-Eastern European fighter, which is what happened to both Dmitry Bivol and Artur Beterbiev to get them that big Beterbiev versus Bivol card. If neither of them had breakout performances in America or in Europe before that fight was made, that fight never would have been made. And even though they were the two best light heavyweights in the world, right? So I'm sure that somewhere out there in Eastern Europe, there are ranks of heavyweights hiding out there to fight Filip Hrgovic and to give Filip Hrgovic great fights. And, instead he's in England fighting and really destroying Dave Allan, who had no business in the ring there with him. I'm not going to sit here and really give a breakdown of this fight because there's not much to say. It was one of those fights where truly you watch Dave Allan even throw his jab out there and you worry. You're concerned for him when he does anything, because it's just very obvious that he doesn't belong in there with Hrgovic, and Hrgovic is hitting him so hard. Where the first time he threw a real meaningful body shot, I was like, man, if I was in Dave Allan's corner, I'd throw in the towel right now. That one in round 1. I would have thrown in the towel in round 1, truthfully, in this fight. But you know what? They waited till round 3. They let Dave Allan take a little bit of an ass kicking before they actually properly threw in the towel. But it's nice. It's nice that it didn't turn into, the Daniel Dubois versus Fabio Wardley thing. But, Dave Allan isn't as tough as Fabio Wardley. He's not going to take as much punishment. But also, Dave Allan has more fights to fight in the future, I'm sure. He's going to be back fighting somebody that isn't on the level of Filip Hrgovic, and he's probably going to take damage in those fights too, because he always fights slugfests, especially against people that actually are on his level, and that's the kind of fighters that he should be fighting if he wants to provide entertainment, which always seems to be the most important thing to him. And to me, that wasn't entertaining. And I think like I said, another aspect of this fight being in the UK was that it's here to set up Filip Hrgovic for this eventual fight against Moses Itauma. And that's another reason why Filip Hrgovic is here fighting in this whole British ecosystem, is because he wants his next fight to be against Moses Itauma. And I think that's a very good fight. And I think that Filip Hrgovic, because of this sort of, it seems like systemic imbalance against Eastern European prospects, at least on the world stage, and having to prove yourself in a whole other level than, say, an American or British fighter would have to, there must be an inherent grudge here with Filip Hrgovic, right? Having to do all this work that all these other fighters are not having to do to get the same opportunities. And you look at somebody like Moses Itauma, and I'm sorry, okay, I do think Moses Itauma, in addition to being a southpaw, is a little faster than Filip Hrgovic, actually. I think Moses Itauma has utterly unique speed for a heavyweight. I think he is genuinely that special. But if I was Filip Hrgovic, I would have every right to feel mad that a young heavyweight like that is getting opportunities when I have the skill set that I have if I'm Filip Hrgovic. Filip Hrgovic has a great heavyweight skill set. He's huge, he's got heavy hands, he's got fast hands, he's got great technique. He's one of those fighters where, like Moses Itauma, I don't really know that much about the defensive profile because it seems like you never really have that much of an opportunity to see him even defend. He's usually just beating down the person he's in there with. I do think that somewhere deep down, Hrgovic has a right to feel like if I was from the UK, if I was from America, I would already have these world title opportunities and this prospect profile, this big money fighter, future big money fighter profile that Moses Itauma has. And I think that that is probably the most motivated, that especially already, you're taking, like, that's a great motivation for somebody who is already the most capable fighter that Moses Itauma will ever have fought. So I hope that we do see that fight. As someone who is a fan of Moses Itauma and sort of a separate line of thinking here, as someone who's a fan of Moses Itauma, I would actually like to see Moses Itauma take another sort of warm-up fight, maybe another guy on the level of Jermaine Franklin or Dillian White, one more fight like that, and then move on another level. Maybe try to find a guy who's sort of a bridge between those levels, because I just think Hrgovic is still young and still really good and still really hungry, and he hasn't really fought anybody like that who's kind of like young and up and coming and really talented and really skilled and really special like him, because Filip Hrgovic has to have, his experience coming up in Croatia was probably a lot like what Moses Itauma's experience was coming up in the UK. He was just in the boxing gym destroying everybody they put in front of him for his entire youth, right? That's exactly what his time coming up in the heavyweight division in Croatia was like. He was a monster. He wasn't defeatable by anybody. And that's exactly what Moses Itauma's experience was in the UK, and now look where they both are. And the only thing I think that would prove me wrong, the only thing you could say to prove me wrong in this whole sort of systemic idea I have against Eastern European fighters coming up would be make this fight, right? Make the fight. Make the fight between Hrgovic and Itauma and prove me wrong. All right, guys, like and subscribe for more combat sports content. I'll be back on the next one.